Hey guys, Gibbon here. With it just being over 2 months since Deadlock was released, I've noticed the criticism from the community being not so great. As someone who has loved playing this agent since her release, I feel she has great potential and can be a force to be reckoned with. So, recently, I've been taking the time to learn her, finding lineups and basic setups to maximize her gameplay. And today, I'm here to teach you guys how I play Deadlock, giving some tips and a few lineups along the way for you to take into the rank grind. Let's get into it. Deadlock's abilities are best at stopping rushes and hard executes. Her ability, Barrier Mesh, is her signature ability and is a deployable wall that goes out like an X, which I'm sure many of you have experienced in your games. Barrier Mesh is potent on the pistol rounds, and a well-placed one on defense can make executes super irritating for the attackers, and when you're attacking, can stop the enemy defenders from flooding into the site when they're trying to stop your team from planting the bomb. Barrier Mesh is a great ability overall. Its one flaw being that you have to throw it, making the ability very reaction-based and hard to always place correctly. One thing to help this is lineups. I have an example on Sunset here to show how lineups for the wall help make it into an amazing ability.
Blocking movement.
The lineups don't have to be super difficult. You just need to achieve two things. One, the wall is able to fortify before the enemies see it or right as they see it. And two, the wall doesn't have any open gaps for them to walk past. Follow these steps when throwing your lineups and you'll maximize the potential of your wall. Now onto Deadlock's next ability, GrabNet. GrabNet is a grenade that when it hits the ground, it puts out a field, and anyone hit in the field gets pulled to the ground, forcing them to crouch. Enemies are forced to wait 6 seconds until it wears off or remove the net, causing a sound effect to play, alerting you that they are removing it.
No mistake.
Unfortunately, I believe this is Deadlock's weakest ability, as pulling the net off is super fast and you are still able to shoot back very easily as the enemies. It would be nice to see it buffed soon by maybe giving it some damage, or when Deadlock hits someone, she has a voice line saying that she hit them,
I have them now!
or it shows you how many people it hit with a little indicator, but not who you hit like it does with KO's knife. But moving back, to make the ability its strongest, lineups are our friend once again. On attack, lineups that land fast enough for your teammates to peek as it lands go great together, as it throws off the enemy crosshairs and slows them so they can't run away. On defense, this ability comes down to reaction or pairing it with another ability such as Raise Nade or a molly like Vipers. You'll use it to stop a big rush, or if you know someone's in a corner about to swing your teammate defusing, you can use the nade to slow them and make their peek hard to do unless they want to crab walk out, or you can pair it with her next ability. Deadlock Sonic Sensors. Sonic Sensor are Deadlock's trip ability, kind of like Cypher Trip
This isn't my spot.
or KJ's Alarm Bot.
Bot down.
Except the gimmick with the Sonic Sensors is that they are sound based, which means holding the flank on attack can be hard. Sonic Sensor is another weird ability that is either tied or just a little bit better than her GrabNet. Personally, I believe on defense, this ability is great. There are a lot of spots you can put the trip in to shake up the site you're holding. The only thing that you have to be cautious of are lurkers. But aside from that, people typically don't play slow in ranked and will just run through these trips. If they are playing slow, put the trips in areas that they have to make noise in, forcing them to set it off. On attack, the story is different. Deadlock's Sonic Sensor only being set off by noise does make it to where holding the flank requires you to be there, which I think isn't necessarily a bad thing. Cypher and KJ do have the freedom to be safe of mind when putting their trip behind them, as it will go off no matter what, but for Deadlock, as long as after you execute, you run back to check the flank, you can either fight the flanker if they pass your trip already, or if they haven't passed yet, you can mess with them by peeking in and out, not wanting to win the duel, but to stall and possibly have them set off the trip. This is also why I suggest placing your trip deep in the main that you're attacking, as the enemy will not expect it to be so deep, and also by the time you go to check flank, they will not have passed the trip yet. The best part of her trip on attack is being able to put it on the bomb, where the sound of defusing does set it off. So, it's a good idea to put the trip on the bomb, but it's even better to have the trip on a different wall, but the affected area hits the diffuser still. Now into Deadlock's final ability, Annihilation. We all know this funny blue laser beam that wraps you up and pulls you to the other side of the map. This ult is super good if used correctly. I try to think about this ult not as like jet knives or neon ult, where you're trying to eco with it or get kills. This is its own unique scenario, where when you go to a site and your team uses their info ability, you can use a basic lineup to nab someone from the back of sight, pulling them to the area you're attacking from. Taking them off site and leaving the enemy with a hard decision to risk peeking out and shooting the cocoon, or letting the player slowly get pulled away. She helps with the problem of, oh, Cypher's here, and we can't execute easily unless we kill him and turn off his abilities, which is Deadlock's time to shine. As your Sova scans him, you can send your ult in, pulling that Cypher out of sight. And this is just one example. You can use it to pull whoever is on site out, and the ult doesn't have to kill. If they break the enemy free, the enemy that was inside the cocoon will be in a weird place, allowing for your team to get an easy kill. And on defense, we'll use our ult for mainly one thing, and that is spike defusing scenarios. If it's a 2v1 and you know where they are, ult them, and hold as the other enemy struggles to break the other one free, allowing for you to let the situation become an even 1v1, or get an easy kill as they struggle to break the cocoon. You can also grab the spike planter with pre-planned lineups, or even just YOLOing this shot with a general idea of where you want it to go. Don't ult like this all the time, only if you feel confident that it's an easy grab. Aside from this, use lineups to help guarantee the ult grab. Before we get into this part of the video, I want to mention that I'm only going to be going over the 7 maps in the pool currently, because the other maps, when they return, will be different to play on, which I will then make a new tier list for the new maps entering the pool at that time. Also, I will only be giving a brief reason why I believe Deadlock is good or bad on certain maps, and later down the line we'll make whole breakdown videos explaining the best strats and how to play Deadlock on specific maps. Now then, starting with the bottom, we'll go to Breeze. I wouldn't say Breeze is out of the question, as I need to play Deadlock more on Breeze, but at a quick glance, I just don't think she would do great, as Deadlock's abilities synergize with tight areas where you're almost forced to make noise. Breeze just seems too open for Deadlock, but if you're like me and lock her in anyway, some advice I can give for defense on A site is putting your trips in the main after the barriers drop, behind the new boxes. This makes it hard for the attackers to destroy your trip. You can also put them on the pyramids on A site where default plant is. And on the B site, putting your trips on the stairs around the default plant, and in the back of the site behind the half wall is another great area to put her trips, as it will be hard to escape them and make the stun easier to land. Moving into the next tier, we have Sunset and Haven, and I believe Deadlock works well on both these maps. My main problem is with Haven. On Haven, Deadlock struggles because of the multiple lanes you have to hold, but she excels at holding those areas as they are tight chokes, and her wall can instantly cancel the push from the mains, while her sensors hold the push from the other areas. But with lurkers being a big problem on Haven, she will struggle to deal with people coming up through side lanes and getting behind her team. But as long as your team plays spread out, or you're conscious for these lurkers, you should do fine. Now moving on to Sunset. The newest map in the pool is a pretty good Deadlock map. Your wall stops the main push on the B site, and your wall on A is great as well, since your trips can go in the right lane of the site, where not making noise is going to be near impossible, and your wall on the left lane, also known as elbow, will gain lots of value if they try to split. Deadlock's weak point is the mid, but with a Jet holding mid with her op, or just anyone holding this in general, you should be doing just fine. Moving up into the A tier, we'll start with Lotus. Lotus is great for Deadlock, as the entrances to site don't have many flank routes and focus on one central entry, aside from A, which is still not a big deal, as you can put your trips in the tree room and your wall on the main entrance. Then you'll play the round by peeking in the tree, weaving in and out, trying to get them to run and set your trips off. B site is probably your best site on defense, as you can dump your trips just about anywhere on site, with them mainly around the main entrance, since anyone running in will get hit by this trip. Your wall can be tossed down in the main or deep in the main to slow them down. Or you can toss it in the connector room with a breakable door if you need to stall time for your team to rotate over. Next we have Ascent, which arguably could be put in S tier with the other two maps, but I feel because of the mid, it makes it just short of that S tier spot. Deadlock does amazing on this map, with lots of places to put her trips in unique and weird spots. When you play Deadlock on this map, as I previously said, you have to be cautious of the mid lurk. Though it isn't a massive risk in ranked, as the coordination isn't always there, when you're playing on A site, you have to be cautious of tree since that is a basic strat most teams use when playing. On the B site, you don't have to be as cautious since you will most likely have someone playing market with you, and you can also play off site with your trips on the main entrance, or you can play deep in site with your trips on main or on the site itself. Split is very close to being tied with Ascent in my opinion. However, Deadlock does amazing with tight chokes, and B site on Split is our best friend when it comes to this, putting either both your trips in heaven or one on site and one in heaven, then coming down the site to throw your wall the second you hear footsteps. Playing like this leaves a big headache on the enemy team. As they gun down your wall, you can then have a teammate molly or nade it, or you can have your second trip be a little further away and slow them down, or you can throw your nade. I think you see the picture. Now, most sane people don't just run it down this main, but if they do, you'll be able to slow or just completely stop them very easily. On A site, she's still great as most likely you will have a duelist or really anyone playing heaven, which means the site is open for you to hold by yourself. With some unique trips, you can really force people to set them off, netting you easy kills. Your wall is also great here as you can toss it in the main or even on the site to make the execute even harder to pull off. Now, the final map, Bind. In my opinion, I feel this is a no-brainer, as your wall can be placed in any of the choke points to cause a big annoyance, and the map is smaller with tighter areas, allowing the trips to set off super easily. On this map, we also have the best Deadlock sensor. This one. This is the best Deadlock sensor, hands down. There is no way to reliably destroy the sensor without doing some crazy wall bounce with a Sova Shock or tossing your raise nade. And so long as you place it correctly, there is no way to avoid the trip since you have to jump into it. You can't land on the box outside of hookah either, as that will set it off. Putting this trip under hookah and placing your wall on long if you hear footsteps or your teammates call nothing on the other side, then your other trip wherever else you feel like putting it, you will have B down very easily. And lastly, I want to leave you guys with some tips to help with playing Deadlock in general. Deadlock's ult is honestly very easy to miss. I would honestly only use it if you feel confident it is going to land or you're waiting for them to begin planting or defusing since it almost guarantees the ult grab. However, you can also use the ult like Raze ult to just scare them. If you're in a 2v1 and you want to bait them, go for the ult and wait for them to run away, then ult the place you think they ran off to. Deadlock's trips are controversial. I won't lie and say they aren't weak, but I do believe they can be extremely good on defense. They mainly lack in the attack department. On defense, make sure to mix up the placements and put them in weird spots since, as I said earlier, the blue indicator when you're placing the trip down is the area they need to make noise in for it to go off. It doesn't have to be right next to the trip. Also, Deadlock's trip can get into some weird areas, mainly on stairs are good places to put it. Deadlock's wall is probably her best ability, and as long as you get it down fast enough to let it fortify, then you'll be fine. I think finding lineups where you can hear early movement is how you'll benefit the most with the wall. And I know for most, it sounds weird to have a lineup for the wall, but you just want it to land perfectly so you're getting the maximum value out of it. Well, that's about it. If you made it to this part of the video, I want to say thank you for listening to me talk about this for roughly 13 minutes. I made this video because I enjoy playing Deadlock, and she has been my favorite release for Valorant so far. I do hope Riot show her some love soon, since I do believe she's a little weak, but I don't think she's dead as a lot of the community label her. But I am open to talk about Deadlock, and whether you agree or completely disagree with me, leave a comment down below and we can talk about it. Also, I want to continue making more videos. Making this one was my first video ever, and I had a lot of fun making it, but this did take me a while to make. Mainly because I was teaching myself how to animate the images and use my editing software for my first time ever. So I want a series that's easier to edit and I can post more frequently, which led me to the idea of doing a Road to Immortal series. And I know that video idea has been beaten to death in this community, but I have never hit Immortal before. So this will be a series where you guys get to watch me struggle as I climb or hopefully pop off all the way there, calling me bad or giving me advice as I go, so I hope you look forward to that. I'll also make more videos like this one, talking about the other maps more in depth, or just topics that are Valorant related in general, such as future balance changes or esports since I've been getting more and more into that scene. But with all that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Pull them to their grave!